McDonald's, McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a Pizza Hut. I feel like I kind of screwed myself by saying that I wanted to start just about every vlog with a song, because it's getting hard now. But anyways, that was the only one that I could think of that has any kind of relation to this topic, which is what is healthy eating? And also a story of why Doritos can be a health food. So one thing that I have kind of had circulating in my mind for a long time, and I know that this is a common thing, especially if you're kind of where I'm at now, where you're floating around a healthy weight and you're like, all right, I do want to eat healthy, but restricting isn't healthy. And having rules and regulations and all this junk in your mind just to try to feed yourself, that's not healthy. But then you feel like if you don't have that, then that you're just eating tagalongs and pizza. That doesn't feel healthy. But then you're also like, well, do I still need all that, higher calorie food? Because you're not trying so hard to gain weight anymore, and it's like, and it's hard. But one thing that I try to keep in mind, and before I go any further, I should say, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a person who likes to learn things. I'm like Tyrion Lannister. I drink and I know things. Except I don't know that many things, so I guess I just drink. But anyways, and other people who know more about this have talked more in depth and more eloquently than what I'm about to say. But the first thing is healthy eating. We actually don't know what it is. And here's the thing. Nutritional science, it's unique. It is a unique field for a lot of reasons. One, it's a very new field. Two, a lot of the research is driven by an agenda. It's funded by industries who, they have a dog in that fight. They want to have the research coming out saying, oh, well, actually, you eat tagalongs, you live longer, kind of thing. Or the sugar industry wants people to think that fat is bad and sugar is good and like all this stuff. So that's it. It's a new industry. It's agenda driven. It's very hard to get accurate things because human bodies and the way we process stuff is so complex that it's hard to figure stuff out. And then finally, there is no consensus. And what I mean by that, I did say a moment ago that I'm not a dietitian, but I do have some background. I studied microbiology in college. I have worked in a lab. I have done lab research. I have read a lot of lab research because where I went to school for my undergrad was really big on, even if you're a freshman, you're reading the research, you're learning how to read articles. But anyways, so what I mean by a consensus is after a lot of research has been done, and Frankie's going to help me demonstrate. After a lot of research has been done, you can't prove anything beyond a shadow of a doubt, but they come to a consensus. And then, that's pretty much agreed upon, and that's it, and you go about your day. One such example, like smoking is bad for you, is a consensus. In the research, gravity exists is another example, like that kind of thing. But in nutrition, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. The only consensus is that vegetables are good and trans fats are bad. So then there's all of that. So keep that in mind. Anytime you hear about a new study saying something is good for you or something is bad for you, keep in mind, we don't know what we're talking about. Even the people who are paid to publish stuff and seem like they know what they're talking about, they're not that much better off. And then don't really have a good segue into it, but the other thing is what's healthy is going to vary from person to person. Example number 1, Fiber is really good for most people. But if somebody has a GI problem that makes it difficult to break down fiber, if they eat a high fiber diet, they're going to have a bad time. That's one example. Another example, which I'm going to use since I am kind of approaching this from an eating disorder perspective, the whole idea that if you're recovering, your healthiest food is, well, it's any food, but your best choice is going to be stuff that has a lot of fat and a lot of calories and not a lot of volume and not a lot of filler like water and fiber. So the kind of things that, like a salad is not going to be a good choice. A double cheeseburger and fries and a milkshake is going to be a good choice. It's got the calories for your body and then also breaking down those fear foods for your mind. See, it's good for both. The other cat is on my other side, and he just decided to attack my sleeve. So he's helping too. And so there's that. And then even within one person, in different contexts of what's going on from day to day, could mean different things for what's healthy. The first example that came to mind for me, let's take a person who has diabetes. It's probably not the best idea for them on a normal day, or certainly not a day when their glucose levels are a little higher. They probably shouldn't, just eat like sugar straight out of the package. I mean, you do you if you eat sugar straight out of the package, but probably not something that you should make a habit out of. Unless you like going to the dentist. But then that same thing, drinking sugar straight out of the package. If you're having hypoglycemia, that can save your life. So that's one extreme example, which leads me to a final example in my story of why Doritos are a health food. So the background on this is I still have some hang-ups about foods that are high in sodium and high in sugar. I'm not strong enough to call it a fear food, because I've been there and it's not that bad anymore, but these are things I want to restrict, things that every time I go against that impulse to restrict it, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Kind of thing. And then in the interest of honesty, yes, sometimes I do actively, willfully restrict them, but so that's the background for where this story comes from. Earlier this week, I was working on a movie, surprise, surprise, as this channel slowly turns into Gan's Adventures, working in the film industry. But anyways, I was working on set, and it was a warm and sunny day. Depending on where you are, you might have thought it was hot. It was high 70s, but in the South, that's not hot yet. That's nothing. So it was a warm day, and the scene that we were shooting was in like October, November, so everyone was overdressed for that weather, and it ended up being like a 14-hour day. So we were like wearing coats in warm, sunny weather for 14 hours. And I had started to get a migraine, but I didn't think anything of it because it's spring, and that's what my tree pollen allergy looks like. It does not look like the runny eyes and runny nose and the sneezing. It looks like I get skull-crushing sinus pressure. So I was like, whatever. And just kind of pushed through it. Because I'm dumb and have a high pain tolerance, and that's really not a good combination. And I made it through the day until we were lining up to clock out, basically. It was a long line because there were about 400 background that day. I wish I was exaggerating, but there were a lot of people. And I was standing in this line, and it was moving very, very slowly. And I thought, I can't stand up anymore. So I just sat down. And almost immediately after that, I was like, I can't sit anymore. So I lied down, just on the ground. And the medic came over to make sure I wasn't dying, and basically what had happened was I wasn't just dehydrated, I had completely sent my electrolytes out of whack. But I had no idea, like I said, because of I thought it was just like allergy migraine, and dehydration was the last thing from my mind because I wasn't thirsty. Apparently that's another sign, like you go past a certain point and just things stop working, including like your thirst cues. And I wasn't sweating, which I guess should have been a sign, but he was like, no. And I ended up getting salt pills and extra water, and he sat with me for a while until he was sure I was safe enough to drag my sorry self home. And so anyways, I was going home. I still felt god awful. Like, this was, I'm not kidding, top 5 sickest I have ever felt, including appendicitis, including like having bronchitis so bad that I couldn't breathe and passed out, including when I was a little kid and had a fever so high that my mom had to put me in a bathtub of cold water. Like, it was up there. So anyways, I got my Uber home. I was still feeling god awful. And the driver was trying to make small talk, and I just had to say, I feel god awful. I'm sorry, I can't talk. I just, like, I had this scary thing where, like, my sodium got low, and I'm, like, still feeling horrible. And I didn't say it, but honestly, I was afraid I was going to throw up in this, like, in her car. And I was, like, looking around, like, what do I have that I can just, like, puke on and throw away and not get it in this poor lady's car? So I was feeling god awful. And she was like, oh, your salt got low? You want my Doritos? Even though I was so nauseous, I was like, sure. I'll eat a Dorito. And keep in mind, the salt pills and the water and all the stuff the medic had given me had been in my system for a good hour and had barely done anything. And then I ate like 3 Doritos and I started feeling better. I just kind of went to town. And when they were Cool Ranch Doritos, which are the only Doritos that matter. Okay. This would not have happened if it was another flavor. But I'm telling you, it was like the Doritos were magical. And that leads to my final point. Why Doritos are a health food. Because what was best for me at that moment was something very salty and very easy to get to. And I'm sure there's going to be someone watching this thinking, oh, well, there's plenty of other salty foods that have a lot of better nutrition and aren't so highly processed, like kimchi or whatever. Okay, but have you ever gotten into an Uber where your driver had kimchi that they shared with you? I mean, because I've taken a lot of Ubers, and that has not happened to me yet. And part of what made it healthy was that the fact that I could get to it immediately. So after that experience, I don't think I'm going to be restricting sodium anymore. I honestly never had a reason to in the first place. I've never had high blood pressure. I've had low blood pressure, and I've had low blood pressure and very salty sweat, and yet I still did this thing where I restricted sodium. And also learned that I need to do a better job of listening to my body. Because when I first felt the migraine coming on, if I had gotten in touch with the medic then, even just to like ask for an Excedrin or whatever, he probably would have said, hey, you're out in the hot sun and you're getting a headache, that's a really bad sign. So you should probably cool off and have a sports drink or something. And things that seem so foolish that I'm still doing. But people are fools, myself included. That's all. And I need to wrap this up. So y'all have fun and be safe. The end.